Human feet may not look reptilian once babies emerge from the womb, but during development, the appendages appear similar to prehistoric fish and reptiles. The finding supports the theory that mammalian feet evolved from ancient mammal-like reptiles that in turn evolved from fish. It also suggests that evolution follows distinct patterns. In this case, the evolution of mammalian feet from fish fins to four-legged reptiles to four-limbed mammals to human feet appears to roughly mirror what happens to a maturing human embryo. In 33-day-old human embryos, scientists observed the outline of a lower extremity in the form of a fin, similar to that seen in osteolithiform fishes. As the embryo continued to develop, the researchers focused their attention on two foot bones, the calcaneus or heel bone, and the talus, which sits between the heel and the lower leg. At 54 days of gestation, these two bones sit next to each other as they did within the reptile herbivore Boreas cynops, which lived around 260 million years ago. This ancient reptile had flat, crushing teeth and mammalian features. At 8.5 weeks of gestation, researchers found the two embryonic foot bones resemble those seen in the Diademodon, which lived around 230 million years ago. As ridiculous as this sounds, it is commonly accepted by modern science that humankind's early ancestors may have been reptiles. According to the Darwinian explanation of the origins of the human species, mammals evolved from reptiles and gained dominion over the earth only after a great disaster of debatable nature destroyed the dinosaurs. It is theorized that only then were mammals able to proliferate and ultimately evolve into intelligent beings. It is rather remarkable that the ancient Sumerian story of creation should parallel so closely the Darwinian view. In both cases, humans are said to be related to a superior reptilian race, and in both cases a great cataclysm eradicates the earlier species. In his book, The Dragons of Eden, the esteemed astronomer Dr. Carl Sagan speculates on the reptilian origins of humans and on the mysterious leap in brain evolution that can be found in the fossil record. He notes that if people had evolved naturally from reptiles, as Darwinists claim, it should have taken 200 million years for mammals to first evolve, and then another 5 to 10 million years for humans to evolve. And he notes with extreme puzzlement that the fossil record simply does not bear out his conclusion. In fact, the evolution of mammals, and particularly humans, was accomplished very quickly in a major burst of brain evolution. Evidence for this is clear in the fact that stone tools do not appear gradually, but rather they appear in enormous abundance all at once. In frustration, Sagan concludes that there is no way to explain this unless Australopithecines had educational institutions to teach toolmaking. Of course, there is another explanation, but not one mainstream scientist would dare consider, and that is to admit that God or godlike beings had a hand in accelerating the evolutionary process. In Mr. Sagan's book, it is emphasized that in our search for evolution of human intelligence, it is extremely important that we do not ignore the most ancient part of the human brain upon which all other segments are but additions. According to the neuroanatomist Paul MacLean, the ancient area of the triune brain is driven by another prehistoric region that some neuroanatomists call the R complex, the R standing for reptilian. It is referred to as the R complex because we share it with reptiles. Mr. Sagan carefully points out the fact that the human brain develops from the inside out, an evolutionary sequence. First, the neutral cassis, which regulates the heart, blood, and respiration, then secondarily and most importantly, the R complex, which is the primordial evidence of intelligence. The limpid system is thought to generate love, hate, compassion, and sentimentality, characteristics believed to be strictly mammalian. The largest part of the human brain, the neocortex or outer layer, is believed to be the home of reasoning and deliberation, and the place where we know the difference between good and evil. The limbic system and the neocortex are later additions to the central core. MacLean also states that the R complex plays an important role in aggressive behavior, territoriality, ritualism, and establishment of social hierarchies. Most of our behavior as human beings is ruled by this archaic region of the brain. As Mr. Sagan himself so eloquently phrases it, it does no good whatsoever to ignore the reptilian component of human nature, particularly our ritualistic and our hierarchical behavior. On the contrary, the model may help us understand what human beings are all about. He mentions how much of our behavior is even expressed in reptilian terms, such as cold-blooded killer, or that shady, deceptive people are referred to as snakes. Also that the common human sounds commanding silence or attracting attention being that of a hissing snake. It's kinda eerie that someone who understands the reptilian part of the brain so well is named Sagan, because his name spelled backwards is that of the mythical East Indian reptilian gods, the Nagas. Carl Sagan goes on to puzzle over the similarities between the reptilian brain and the human brain. He points out that at the core of the human brain lies a vestige of our reptilian past. Once again, science seems to agree with the ancient creation myths, for it was the knowledge of good and evil given to them by a serpent that caused the first woman and man to fall from grace with the Creator. If the Creator was reptilian, then it could be that by becoming mammalian and developing a neocortex, humanity becomes less reptilian, thus falling from grace. I repeat the words of cosmologist Carl Sagan. There are more potential combinations of DNA than there are atoms in the universe. Far from it being impossible for such a race to emerge, it would be more surprising if it had not. At least 5 human behaviors originate in the reptilian brain. In human activities, they find expression in obsessive-compulsive behavior, personal day-to-day rituals, and superstitious acts, slavish conformance to old ways of doing things, ceremonial reenactments, obeisance to precedents as in legal, religious, cultural, and other matters, and all matters of deception. Other traits of the R complex include arrogance, aggression, and the mindset of might is right and winner takes all. Racism comes from the reptilian brain and also deception, violence, and lustful sexual energy. The human brain is in 2 parts or hemispheres, the right brain and the left brain, connected by a mass of nerve fibers. The left side is rational, logical, and intellectual. It works closely with the physical senses and can be summed up by can I touch it, see it, hear it, smell it, or taste it, so it must exist. It communicates through spoken words and written language. The right brain is where we manifest imagination, intuition, instincts, dream states, and the subconscious. It is the artist, musician, and creative inspiration. It communicates through images and symbols, not words. The right side is also closely related to the R complex. All movies, television, and video games are a projection of the reptilian brain. Movies, television, video games, and so on are all undeniably dreamlike, not only in their presentation of symbolic reality, but also in that humans experiencing movies have the same brainwave patterns as when they are dreaming. Dreaming originates in the reptilian brain, although other parts of our brain are involved. The language of the reptilian brain is visual imagery. All communications transferred by reptiles are done so by visual symbolic representations, each having specific meaning.
I think most Americans feel that way, but what is still true is that there's still kind of a reptilian side of our brain, right? That part of our brain that if somebody looks different or sounds different, that there's a part of us that is cautious, and what we have to do is fight against that, and that's part of what